of just busy real estate life on the east side of Seattle.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back, Kim.
Yeah, so much to talk about, so much great information to share, and we've got months of great material lined up.
Yeah, I'm really excited to kind of get in and talk about all of the things that have been keeping us busy the last couple of months.
Yeah, lots going on, and so much to share.
Yeah.
And as we know, real estate is always a constant changing, living, breathing element, and we just love the excitement of it and sharing that with our clients.
I totally agree. Do you want to dive right into how the market's been the last couple of months?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm sure you've heard on the news and from your neighbors or people that are selling or buying and how crazy the market is. And it's just helpful to share some charts and some data with you, because then it helps you to understand that we, over the past couple of years, we can go back quite a bit in time, but we're just, for the sake of this illustration, we're just going back even to January of 2019 and seeing that currently we have 47% less homes available for sale than we did in 19, which 19 was also a fabulous year, but we are definitely on the competitive side. We do have more buyers that are moving into the area. Rates are low. And then, of course, because we've got low inventory. And then here we see, so months of inventory is a really good indicator as well. We did back in January of 2019, we had 3 months of inventory, which is still considered a seller's market. And now we are at the point that we're at in October, we are at about 2 weeks of inventory. 2 weeks. So that means what comes to the market basically gets offers and is pending within 2 weeks. So that is where the market is still very busy and very competitive for the buyers that are out there.
So we have less inventory than 2019 by 47%, so more than half.
Yeah.
The homes for sale. So I think it was like 1,000 homes for sale in January 2019.
Yeah.
And we were down to sub 400
Yeah.
last month.
Yep, it was like 1,300 in January, and now we're down to 430. So
Wow, and more buyers, interest rates. So that explains a lot about multiple offers, competitiveness, all of this that you're hearing in the news. You've been seeing local news snippets, about like what buyers have to do to get a home. So we'll get into a lot of that later, maybe.
yeah, sounds great. Yeah, and how about you?
Well, so that all sets up for what happens when there's less supply and more demand. Home prices rise. So it's no joke that people are building extreme amounts of wealth just by owning a home. In 2019, the average sale price was $811,000. In 2021, so looking just 2 years later, the average sales price was over $1 million, so $1,019,000. So if you bought a home at the average sales price or purchase price of $811,000 and you sold it in September 2021, you would have $388,000 in accumulated equity in the home. Can you believe it?
Well, when you talk about the numbers, it is mind-blowing, because we always tell our buyers, when you're ready to buy, let's go, because you will eventually, you could get priced out of the market, and this makes sense, right?
It totally does, and it goes back to, when you're having that conversation with buyers about can they save to be able to purchase in the future. Yeah. So when you see that kind of appreciation and they say, gosh, home prices are escalating, I don't want to compete. What are some of the other things we hear from buyers? I don't want to compete. I'll just wait until prices come back down. Prices are so high, they're for sure going to come back down. But as we graph this out, and what you're seeing is in 2 years, there has never been a decrease in price.
Right.
And so unless you can save $388,000, and that only keeps you in place. So the same home that sold for 811
Right.
sells for over $1 million. That's
Right.
not like it's getting you more.
Right.
And you're probably actually competing with more people to get it too.
I think so. And so I think that's where it's really important for the people that still think that we're in a current bubble, that there really isn't a bubble. So when the market does shift, then we typically are going to see prices just level out, and that could happen in the next several years, but we will not see a decline. And we know this because we see the volume of people, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as we have that influx of people moving into the areas, more buyers, and interest rates staying low,
Yeah.
prices will keep going up because it's always supply and demand.
Yeah.
And you can look at this across houses, during the pandemic, appliances, whatever, name the thing that you want to go buy.
Right.
There's less of that available right now. So
Right.
my best advice to buyers is sometimes you don't get everything on your list, but buy into the neighborhood or the area that you want.
Right.
Even if the home needs a little work, even if it's not your dream home, because if you could stay in a home for 2 or 3 years and build a couple $100,000 in equity, that puts you in a great position
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
buy up in the future when things change, or reinvest that back into the home and make it your dream home, because
Right.
everything else is fixable with time and money.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
in the new kitchen, the new counters,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
of that.
I agree. And so the area that we're talking about is really the greater east side of Seattle. And so that we just want to be clear because we're not dipping too far out of the realm.
Yeah, so there's a good map. So south of Mill Creek, north of Newcastle, and then the east side, kind of to the Duval area, because the central areas of Bothell, Redmond, Woodinville, Kirkland, Bellevue, that's where everyone wants to be. So we find our buyers kind of go out a little north and south of that. But Seattle has its own rhythm. I mean, these trends across King and Snohomish County kind of follow, but Seattle has its own issues that it's dealing with, supply and demand and other reasons. So this is generally the data that we'll use. We'll kind of talk about the greater east side area.
I love it. Yep. And we're very, very familiar with that since that's where we spend a lot of our time.
So it's
with our
been a
people.
busy summer.
It has been, which is so unique because normally in real estate world, it used to be where July and August were kind of sleepy months.
Yep.
You'd go on vacation or just take some
Buyers
time
would
off.
be out of town. They're all camping there, but it's really been the last 2 years, all the patterns are off. I saw a spike right before Labor Day, and that was always our telltale. Don't list anything right before Labor Day. It's the slowest time of the year. But surprise, all the buyers were out shopping for homes.
Yeah. I have not paid attention this year to holidays at all because it hasn't mattered because the buyers are there. And some of the lucky buyers are the ones that shop on the holidays.
That's right.
So,
If they're ready and willing, they're out there looking for houses.
yeah, I think so. So what are some of the calls like that you're starting to get this time of year? I know our calls vary, from different people, but
Yeah, on the listing side, it's been a bit of conversations about, is it a good time to sell? So again, going back to that, is there a looming bubble? So you have that conversation, and what do I have to do to fix my house up to get it on the market?
Yes.
So I've been having lots of those conversations lately and kind of taking different paths with different clients depending. So what do you hear in the fixer upper? I have a fixer upper. Should I list now?
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a great thing to talk about because, we've had such beautiful homes, for several years, and we are seeing where people do need to sell and they maybe don't have brand new kitchens or, all the money to throw into rehabbing their home before they sell. So I think it's really going to be something we're going to see a lot more of coming in the future. And let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of two different paths, but let's take the fixer upper, because sometimes if the client has the time and the money, then it's worth putting the money in to make repairs. Homes that are updated generally sell for high. They show better. They look better on the in the photos. But let's set those aside because not everyone has the time, energy, or money, or those things all at the same time. So I have an upcoming listing that I would say is truly a fixer. It's a solid home. but it just will need everything. New windows, new kitchen, new bathrooms, paint. And there's probably some additional defects like this. There may be issues with the sewer. So, you talk to the seller and there are things that they want to do. And what you have to really strike that balance is, where do you stop? So when you're having that conversation on what's going to bring value that a buyer is going to be able to look past, depending on the neighborhood, the price point, and where do you stop? Right. So that's kind of where I start with clients. How about you?
Yeah. No, it's interesting because in some cases, like a home like that, I've had one recently, and we truly had to sell it as is. It happened to be an estate, and so those are a little bit different, but really there isn't money. The estate is looking to, capture as much money as possible, so we don't really have the ability to fix it up, unfortunately. So the as-is home is really something we can sell anything, but the as is truly as is. Like, everything that's wrong stays wrong, and we just disclose. I mean, the whole point is we're not trying to hide anything. We want everyone to know, here's what's going on with the house, and, price it accordingly, and then let buyers, come and do their due diligence.
So what approach do you generally take with the seller in those scenarios? So we know off the bat, let's get this listed probably as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So even on the craziest stuff, I can't help myself. I'll even bring bags of mulch myself because I cannot not have that fresh smell when you walk up to a house.
Like the curb appeal?
Curb appeal. So that to me is, we can spend anywhere from $200 to $500 just sprucing up the front as people arrive, because again, people buy, with their emotion, whether you're an investor or an end user buyer. I just find that is one thing I can't live without. But other than that,
so a couple bags of mulch,
or plants or whatever, just to kind of, freshen up that front entryway. But then probably like you, we sit with the seller and we ask, what they're capable of or what they're willing to take on, and then figure out, what, how as is it?
Yeah.
Or is it as is, or, is it a fixer-upper, and here are a couple things we might tidy up?
Yeah, I find that, and then clean. So sometimes that means we're in there scrubbing. Sometimes we hire the professionals to do it. I recently had an estate sale this year that, they had lived in the house 50 years. I doubt they had ever cleaned out. I mean, none of us do, right? So you get the good cleaners in that do the Q-tip cleaning in the tracks. You get everything just clean. In fact, these clients didn't even want me to stage. They just didn't understand why we would do that. They felt the house was at the level that don't put that effort in, which was interesting because that's another side note. I think a lot of times sellers will be more down on their homes because they're familiar with it, or it was an estate sale. It was the family home. And I find that people undervalue and underestimate what their home is worth.
Yeah.
In that. And so it was literally like, let's get this house on the market. So I'm like, let me get the cleaners in. Yeah. And they did a fabulous job. So then we could do the staging, or I'm sorry, the cleaning, get it photographed and get it on the market. And then buyers got to see it as is. Right. They got to see it vacant in all its warts and glory. And we still got 12 offers.
Yeah.
On that house.
Yeah. I think that's really true because the clean has a smell, but it also is great when people walk in, they're not distracted by dust and grime and this and that. And then if there are things in the house, then I usually have people put them in the garage or get a storage unit and move everything that they can. Yeah. That's possible to move out because we do want to declutter and, like you said, clean.
Yeah.
Clean. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, whether the seller has done a pre-inspection, which is really helpful in those cases, I find, because then again, you can price it right. You don't have to negotiate repairs after the contract with the buyer. So if you do a lot of that up front, you disclose, like you mentioned, provide that information to the buyer, then you know how to price it correctly. So
there was a situation not too long ago that after we did the pre-inspection, we had already talked about price, and then we had the pre-inspection, and it needed some stuff. And one of those things was a new roof. And so we had to have a long conversation about, we can always sell everything at the right price, but if the appraiser comes because the buyer is getting a loan, which 90% do, we're going to really isolate out those buyers because there's no way it was going to pass an appraisal.
Right. And sometimes I agree because the roof is obviously a big deal. And sometimes, and it's hard to get a roof cert right now, because those kind of help us out, but they're very hard to come by right now. So, yeah.
Yeah. So there's sometimes that even, so as is, so we could have sold, so we talked about at different prices.
Right.
We could sell at this price,
right.
Or for about $15,000. They could put a new roof on. The nice thing is the roofer I was working with was happy to be paid at closing. So they weren't even out of pocket money. And it ensured that the roof was taken care of prior to closing. We had started, it wasn't finished by the time we went on the market, but it was, again, that promise that it would be finished before closing,
right.
which was fine.
Right.
And they probably saved themselves, I don't know, 50,000, maybe 60,000, because they wouldn't have been able to entertain those financed offers. I mean, we could talk about it a later time. There are other types of loans that maybe you could get, but again, the general buyer pool is going to be a conventional loan for most of our homes.
And buyers are terrified of roofs because they're terrified of having to replace something so big right out of the gate. So I think it is a really good thing to analyze. So, yeah. So I think that's, again, like for as is, we just give it a little bit of curb appeal, clean and declutter, hopefully, help them analyze, maybe do a pre-inspection, address maybe anything very large, like if there was a structural thing or the roof thing. And then, if by chance, a seller has ability to paint their fresh paint in some rooms that might be dark or dreary or whatever, is a big help as well.
Yes.
So
yeah, because then you go to the next levels, because sometimes it's just as is. And I know with a lot of our clients, there's the effort level, there's the how much energy they're willing to put into it, just because they're maybe in a different stage of life, maybe they're in a hurry, maybe it's an estate, etc.
Yeah.
So that next level is, okay, we won't do anything and here's the recommended price. And then usually my approach is with the paint, let's talk about, could we freshen up with paint and carpet? I'm in the middle of that project with another client, and the seller is like, I can't believe what a difference just paint and carpet made. I mean, the house is dated. It's going to need work.
Yeah.
But that smell, you mentioned smell, that's such a huge thing. It totally changed the smell. I think paint and carpet smell might not be good for us.
No, but I call it the $10,000 smell, because people walk in and they're like, oh, it's been freshly touched. Yep. And so there's just something that knowing that a seller has done something that,
totally
gives value.
And it's that cleanness.
Yeah.
Fresh surfaces. So I would say it's probably a $30,000 or $40,000 value, but yes, totally agree that that's the next step, even if you don't do anything else. And that's what we're going to do on this. It's been a rental for 25 years. Yeah. Let's just do the value of putting the carpet in and doing the paint will pay itself back tenfold. Yeah. In this particular case. But had she not wanted to, that's fine too, because we can, again, sell anything. Yeah. It's just, do you have the time and energy to want to do that?
Yeah. And so again, I think as we see too, just kind of some of the buyers that are coming out, like I had one recently and she was as is, she was, an older lady, and she was so excited to move into assisted living and beyond excited to be back with people and everything. And so she lived in this house for a long time. And so it truly was as is. I mean, I cleaned around her, but that was it, trying to get the buyers, to just accept that, in that condition. So
wallpaper and gold.
Yeah.
And all.
Well, flowery wallpaper and all that type of thing. So, but price in that case definitely was the key, and that helped her, have a successful sale.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, especially you and I both work with a lot of estates, older clients, and really showing them where their house fits into the market. And so many of them are sitting on so much equity that
Yeah.
they just want to move on. They just want the equity and move on. But as we'll talk about in a little while too, is what you don't want to do is mistake giving away equity to a quick sale, a cash investor, or someone who's sending you letters like, you know, we all get, I have some with me, we all get the letters, I'll buy your house and make it so easy. The truth is, you and I, as real estate brokers, can make it very easy on our clients and keep the money in their
Right.
pocket. So we'll dive into that in a little while.
Well, no, but that brings up a good point because, you know, some people are like, oh my gosh, I got to sell it as is. I've been getting these letters and offers and I'm just ready. I'm ready to just cave and be done. And we start to see it happen because you and I have been tracking some of these sales. And so we see that there is this new, in our market, a new type of real estate, which is the iBuyer type of program. And that is where the people come and offer, you know, hey, I'll give you cash. You know, you can stay for 30 days, but here's your cash. This is how much you're getting. And, you know, make it super simple. Nobody's coming through your house. There's no hassle. And super simple. And people are like, woo, I have cash. I mean, this is
They're
awesome.
offering me all this money.
Yeah.
Like, what does this letter say? Like, I just got a letter the other day in the mail. We'll cover that. You know, it has a whole, you know, we'll come by your house, and the whole, I guess the tag thing, you know, or motivation. If you're considering selling your home and do not want the hassle and expense of preparing your home for market, such as fixing roofs, replacing water heaters, you might be a good fit. And I feel like a lot of these investor letters, so there's the investor pool, right? And then there's the iBuyers, and we'll talk a lot more about them, is this whole notion that we're going to give you cash for a quick close and take the stress out of it. Well, there's always going to be stress. Like, I think that it's just a misnomer that, you know, you wave a magic wand and everything's done, right? The seller still has to move. The seller still has to find a place to live. And the idea that cutting out putting it on the open market somehow saves you money over what you'd spend in commission. I think that with both of us, what we show our clients is we actually add value because we keep your money in the pocket. What the investor group does, the reason they're making you an offer off market is because they want a deal.
Well, totally. And so that's the part where we have to really, you know, talk about how much is inconvenience worth. Because in our market, the sales that we've been tracking, we see that some of the inconvenience that people are allowing these offers to come in, they're leaving $200,000 on the table. And
So they could have paid traditional real estate fees of, let's just say, $40,000 at a, you know, $1 million
Right.
price point.
Right.
Or
Right.
they can sell to a cash buyer,
Right.
but give up $200,000.
Give up $200,000. So it is. So we've been tracking this because this is what we do. We're, you know, engulfed in data because that's how we give our clients the best service and, you know, help people price properly. It's not something that just, you know, happens with a click of a button. We don't use algorithms and I mean, we dive deep on each neighborhood. And so we track, you know, some of these different sales that are starting to happen. And so we see them. And then we can track how much, you know, the people were given for their home. And that is how we're coming up with the numbers that are significantly less than if they had come to the open market.
Exactly.
So then what an iBuyer does is they take that property that they've paid cash for when the sellers have moved out and are on their way and happily spending their cash. Then the iBuyer comes and basically resells the home. And they know that they have, you know, plenty of equity and plenty of money that they can price it much higher and then still continue to collect offers and get more money.
What's so interesting as I've seen some of these net sheets that the seller gets. So you'll have a sales price, let's just use $1 million because that's a fun round number, right?
Yeah.
And built in to what the seller actually walks away from are things like all of the repairs. So let's say that iBuyer said that there's $15,000 in repairs needed. So they deduct that from the $1 million. And then they say, well, we're going to have to resell it. So there's a 2 or 3% commission in there, because when the iBuyer resells it, they're going to have to pay a buyer's agent commission. So the truth is that all of it's built in, because at the end of the day, it's a business. These iBuyers are corporate entities. They're hedge funds. They're,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of different business models built around it. But at the end of the day, they're there to make money.
Yeah.
And what's so fun to show clients, I think, when you sit down and talk to them about is, well, you can get a cash buyer and walk away with $900,000, or I can put it on the open market and you can walk away with $950,000. So which way do we want to go? Like, at the end of the day, I'm working for my seller to get them the most money.
Right. And that's really the premise of a realtor. Like, we work for the seller's net profit. That's our greatest objective, is to obviously perform amazing customer service, but our goal is to get them the highest profit. That's why we, spend so much effort and time, to stage it and clean it or curb appeal or whatever the element, that the home needs to get it the most. And so the iBuyer is a corporate entity, and they have a, required net profit that they have to achieve. And so that's the difference, where they, are just basically paying for that, discounting the ability to move the seller out quickly and give the seller cash, and the seller doesn't have to have people through their houses.
And I think the important thing there is if that's ever the seller's objective, because there are real times that, like, you need to move and they need to move quick.
Yeah.
Your real estate agent should have a strategy for you in their back pocket of, here are the things, if that's what your goal is, here are the things how I can achieve that for you without giving up a convenience fee of $100,000 or $200,000.
Yeah, because what we've been seeing is, and this is, across multiple states as we track the fees, but the fees average between 10 and 16% is what we see.
And that's not even including all the closing costs, right?
Right. Those are just the fees. And so, so people that are very, shell-shocked about, paying commissions or whatever, this is definitely a much bigger hit to their net profit.
Yeah, so one of the things I think it's important for sellers to know is when they get these letters, when they get the phone calls, I've probably received 5 phone calls in the last 30 days. I have a buyer for your home, is to pick up the phone and call your trusted real estate broker.
Right.
Or call Kim and I, and we can help you through the process of, is that truly in your best interest to sell? Recent stats said in the first half of this year, 1 in 6 homes in the country were sold to an investor.
I saw that.
So, and 25% of those were iBuyers. The other 75% were the smaller mom and pop flippers, local builders, that business model. And then there's some bridge loans and some other financial services in there that buy homes and then resell them.
Right.
But all that being said, I feel like people are so inundated with this idea and this marketing ploy around, it's such a hassle to sell your house. Right. And it really doesn't have to be. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be emotional and there's not work to be done.
Right.
But your trusted real estate agent is going to be able to minimize that for you. And if you're finding that they're not, then call Kim or I.
Right. Because we have a great plan, and we kind of work with the scenario because everyone is different, like what they're able to accomplish and, you know, things like that. I've had people live in the home while we show it for 4 days and
or one day. I mean, I have had it where literally they said, I can make myself scarce for this 8-hour block.
Right.
That is the only time I'm going to let people in.
Right.
And I'll come up with a marketing plan and make that happen. And we still sell their homes and we still get multiple offers.
Yep.
So we can get it done.
Right. I know. We're going to have to write a book one day of all the interesting ways that we've had to
Just don't fall for the corporate language, this idea that a lot of the marketing that you hear out there, that your real estate agent costs you money. It's the inverse.
Yeah.
And if you're not talking with someone who's in the market every day and someone who's doing a lot of these transactions and working with fixer-uppers and estate sales, et cetera, you may have that impression. And these numbers are big. I don't think a lot of, people who have been in their home for 40, 50 years understand how much money. I mean, they bought their homes for the last one I sold, they $64,000. And he didn't want me to list it for over $1 million because I was like, well, it's going to sell for 1.2, 1.3. I think this should be the list price. And he's like, absolutely no. Like he just could. And so we listed it like $989.
Right.
And because you can't list it too low either, but they just were overwhelmed by that's what property values were. And so what I get concerned about is people being taken advantage of, equity being stolen from, that they need that for, well, it's the property owner's equity. They should fully get to enjoy that.
Right. And to understand, all those elements of it. So I think that's it. Just to understand, what is your inconvenience worth? It can be worth a lot, especially in the market where it is still a seller's market with a lot of competition for your home. And sometimes too, just even coming to the open market, the buyers that want the home are the ones that actually sometimes write the best offer because they want a home that they can call their own and fix it up or whatever, turn it into their own abode.
Yeah, and that's when you have the buyers who can see past the cosmetic things, and that for the most part, most things can be fixed with time and money, right? That it's not someone else. It's not a flip. It's not, it's not the white gray cabinets and white quartz and that's not what that homeowner wanted. Yeah. Buying a fixer-upper is a great opportunity to build your own equity and put in the design you want. And Kim and I love doing this stuff, so we can help you with that. Or, trusted designers, even if you are not a handy person, not to be scared off by a fixer-upper. Because for the most part, most people are going to hire professionals to do the work anyway. So it's not like you need to know how to use a skill saw.
Right. Exactly.
You can. I mean, that's helpful.
Right.
But you don't have to.
Right. You don't have to rewire your fire alarms. There are people that do that. So we can definitely help with that. So super fun.
Okay.
Well, Beth, I see you have a pumpkin there.
Look at the pumpkin.
Oh my gosh.
It must be trick or treat time.
Yeah. Are you ready to do some trick or treating?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's share some of our tricks. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Some of our listing tricks.
Yeah. So we thought we'd share just a couple products that we, each time that we just find that we cannot live without. Usually you'll find us driving around town. We have these things in our car at all times. So if you...
Yeah, sometimes my husband's like, does this still need to be in there? Yes.
Yeah,
leave absolutely. It in the car.
We do not leave home without these things. So
it's show and tell time now. You always need your safety goggles.
I think so.
Although,
especially if you work with me spraying this stuff, you definitely want to wear some safety goggles. So, all right. So this product, if you haven't heard about it, you're going to want to buy as many bottles as you can get your hands on. It's called 30-second outdoor cleaner. So I've actually had to get my own bottle because my husband kept taking it out of my car.
This is your real estate bottle?
This is my real estate bottle. But this is so fabulous. Like you have mossy posts and mossy drive and moss, how we get that kind of lovely green.
Oh, the slime.
The slimy stuff. So you spray this on, you let it sit for just a little bit, and then you just spray it off. Like you do not need to really scrub it with a brush, and it basically whitens up. When I did a deck recently, I did use a little bit of a brush because it had been on there for probably 15 years. So then I did use a little brush and cloth to kind of wipe it off. But basically the water, when it activates it, it's got a little bit of bleach in it. So you want to not wear your best suit when you're doing this. And it's beyond fabulous. So I've used it on so many different things to clean up. So
I think here in the Northwest, that should be just a staple. Maybe we should start putting these in our home buyer kits.
Right. Welcome wagon basket. Yeah. Here you go. Is 30-second. You're going to use it.
And it makes such a difference. I find, like in photos, just sometimes in safety, like walking up to the front door. A lot of, our clients don't use their front door regularly, right? You use the side door, come in and out of the garage. And so I do. I love that stuff. You spray it on, you spray it off, done.
Yeah. And so always, I recommend wearing gloves
definitely.
too, because of the bleachy, and you know how that makes your fingers feel exciting and tight. And anyway, fabulous. Fabulous product.
That is such a good product. Okay, here is my go-to. I go through these in Costco size packs usually.
Yeah.
So the Magic Eraser. So this is a Mr. Clean. You can get Safeway brand or Fred Meyer brand. They all work about the same. Some last a little longer, I find. So it's just this little sponge.
Yeah.
Again, I like wearing gloves because it leaves your fingers with a little bit of a residue feeling. But you just wet it. In fact, I've used this one apparently.
Yeah.
You just get it a little wet, and those scuffs on the wall, like behind furniture. So you end up with a house, someone's moved out of, or there's the fingerprints on the door. I recently used it to take some cleaning. Something had been on the counters. Just scrub.
Right.
It comes right up. These things are gold.
Yeah. Sharpie. I mean, it's
Sharpie.
been amazing.
Yeah.
The stuff that we've been able to just clean up walls with all those nicks and scratches. Yeah. So, you don't have time to repaint. You're going to be using 6 to 10 of these because it really helps just tidy up.
And it's, walls. Even when you have to go through a couple, I don't know, this is probably a $3 box of 2. It's so much easier than trying to paint match, because that's the other thing. So we'll have a whole thing on paint matching, but if you have a lot of paint matching to do, you end up just with polka dots all over your wall.
Right.
It's so much easier to take a Magic Eraser, Mr. Clean, get rid of it. It is gone. So this is a trusty, stays in my car, stays in my real estate toolkit when I'm staging.
I agree. Whoever invented this, I mean, hats off. That is fabulous. Yes. So
they're probably very, very wealthy by
bajillionaire.
now.
Yeah.
Bajillionaire.
That's right.
So that's our tips and tricks. I know we have a ton of them that we'll share each segment.
Yeah.
Oh. Hi. Oh.
Yay! So exciting.
Yeah.
So, we have lots more that we keep in our cars, but that's what we thought we'd share today. So,
well, I'm so excited that we got to catch up and
share a little bit.
And what do you think going forward? What are you seeing as the year's wrapping up in the last quarter and going into the new year? Any predictions?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. We saw rates tick up just a tiny little bit in the past 2 weeks. And so, rumor is that next year they think the rates will go up a little bit more. So it's a great time for the buyers, that are still motivated to get out there this fall. I mean, don't take time off. Don't be, discouraged. I think from what I've seen, like as I've worked even in Snohomish County and further north, is that there's still competition, but it's not as 10 to 20 offers like we, had in the past. So I think it's just a good time to be out there as a buyer and just, pump yourself back up and, try to find that property.
I totally agree. And I think on the listing side too, as we go into the winter, that there's no bad time to sell right now.
Right.
If you're thinking about selling, call your real estate agent, have a discussion about, is the timing right for you? Because really the truth is the best timing is when the seller is ready to sell.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would not be afraid of going into the holidays and listing. As we talked about earlier, I mean, our inventory is minuscule.
Yeah.
So there is virtually no competition right now. So unless somehow miraculously we get 3 to 4 times the amount of inventory, that still only puts us at a 3-month inventory level, which is still a great seller's market. So I would say if you're thinking about selling, it's a great time. Let's start having those discussions and finding our buyers some homes and helping our sellers move on to their next step.
Yeah, exactly. And then because we're in that month of gearing up, like for the holidays, Thanksgiving will be here before we can blink our eyes.
I know.
Isn't that something? So thought we'd do a little gratitude thing for just to acknowledge someone. And I mean, I have so many businesses and different people that I could thank and acknowledge, my clients and all those types of things. But I really have to say, I have to really be grateful and thankful to my husband, because as much as I've had to work in the past couple months, is he has been a dinner warrior. And so, I mean, that's huge, because you know how we have all these things that we're trying to take on, and just to have somebody, you know, that's like, I'll handle it, is really quite huge. So I'm super thankful to have somebody that is able to champion dinner for me many nights. So thank you.
Oh, and I wanted to thank my husband as well. Same thing. He is a hold down the fort, take care of things. We're still working on our rental, the project that never stops. And he is just my foundation. I mean, he has been supporting me in the business and helping me on the business side, and then as well as holding down the fort. So thank you to the husband as well. And thank you to my clients. It's been a great year. Hope to, finish the year out strong. All things are looking great on that. So I feel very blessed this year for all the things that are going maybe not so great in the world. I'm feeling very thankful for what I have and the success that I've had this year.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, we've had a lot of challenges on different deals, and I always love when we can overcome them, and, the clients are happy in the end. I love it. So at some point we'll do a segment with all the challenges that could happen, because that's pretty exciting itself. So you won't believe where we find ourselves.
More to come.
More to come. Yeah.
Well, happy fall. It was great to reconnect, and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah. Sounds good. Great.
Thanks.
See you next month.
See you next month.